Well, your principal, and obviously Bruce isn't here, his point of view, big picture, he is like we open when folks want to open. But from an athletic standpoint in the NHIAA, they dictate the fall calendar in many ways. So Bruce was very uncomfortable, quite frankly, with kids having soccer team, I think, played 2 games prior to school beginning. Football played 1 game prior to school beginning. That he was somewhat uncomfortable with that. It was, it probably ran the gamut, 50-50 in terms of who's happy and who's sad on those on the opening. Those of us who grew up in ancient times are used to going the Wednesday after Labor Day, quite frankly, but times change.
Mr. Halloran, if it'd be okay if I comment?
Just check.
Oh, I'm the chair right now.
Sorry.
Yes, you are. Yes, go ahead.
My brother sat in the governor's council with Mr. Parsons, and the one thing that he had said in that meeting to my brother was that he would have no difficulty starting after Labor Day, in fact, no problem with starting after Labor Day if it didn't impact athletics. Having a daughter on the soccer team, a soccer game's a soccer game. Whether we go to it after she's done with school or after she's done doing the summer day, it really made no impact on us as a parent. And when you say that the before or after Labor Day, it's a 50-50 shot, the financial impact that has on this community, to me, tips the scale in the other direction. For us, I mean, we're talking about 4 days. 4 days on either end of the calendar. And 4 days that would take us to from June 10th to June 12th, 15th, June 16th. I mean, we're doing, most businesses, that's particularly tourism industry, we're doing a fraction of our normal July business. We don't get busy until July. So those 4 days, I mean, you take a water park as an example, we're open 90 days. We have 90 days to make $2 million. Losing 1 day in your heyday period would be like a 365-day-a-year business losing a month. So those days, they take food off tables. Those are big days. So if it's a 50-50 slot, the economic thing, you pile that on there, and that to me tips the scales in one direction. But I will say that from a business operator, it was significantly better, not only for us in the business world, but if you consider what a good graduate is. I mean, if a good graduate is, if they can write a paper and know algebra, can do calculus, that's fine, but if they're not employable, they need those skills. So to me, that extra 4 days in the real world of work environment where they are held accountable, they are responsible, they're on their own in a position at a water park or at Clark's or at any of the other businesses in the community, to me, I look at that as furthering their education. So my 2 cents.
Thank you. Anybody have comments or response to Mr. Boyd? Or anything else on? I think from my perspective as a parent, it was nice to have them start after Labor Day, but it doesn't matter from that perspective because they're already coming in for sports every day to be in the middle of the month. And so I think for a lot of working parents, maybe not so much at the high school, but the younger grades, working parents, it's tough when the kids aren't going back to school. But I see your point with that.
Either end of the calendar.
Yeah, right.
4 days.
Right. Yeah, Phil?
My experience has been, if you get one of those winters where you're looking at 8 to 10 days of inclement weather, and you go to add those on in June, and when the temperature in the upper levels gets 95 plus, there's no air conditioning. To me, that's problematic. So I have concern extending it just because of the weather.
Where is the governor's council going with this? Have you heard what the governor, I mean, he was pushing for after Labor Day, right?
Yeah, I think it was a non-committal report sent back to the locals, quite frankly, to decide. They had some stats I don't think they, I may be wrong, but I don't think that they got any unanimous opinion one way or the other, though the governor is saying he would really like, called Save Our Summers for economic purposes, go forward.
Right.
But my understanding was that the local decision-making was an important piece of the conversation.
Okay. Mr. Boyd?
Yeah, he's correct there. It is the local, he'd rather it be local rule. However, it is important for our economy, and to the point over here about the weather. You know, the first several weeks in June are typically cooler than the last 2 weeks in August. So again, where you put those 4 days, which side of the calendar you put them on, both have the tendency to be hot. One has a tendency to be hotter, so that's the August time slot. And in terms of snow days, I was talking with another individual that said, well, what do you do when you get a lot of snow days? And my response there was, well, what do they do in Massachusetts? Where, I mean, they get a lot of snow days and for far fewer inches of snow in Mass, and they are pushed back. And again, as a local business operator, if it's 50-50, I would far rather lose those days in June. If we had to go to June 20th, I'd rather do that than lose those 2 weeks in August, or a week in August at this point.
I have a question, Maureen.
Yeah, Lisa.
So what the game, I know, go to Wales Tail all the time, and it's hop in place because we bring our summer program there. What have you, so we've been starting a long time in August. I mean, my kids are in college and it's been a while. What have you been doing? How do you resolve this issue?
When the kids go back,
That you don't have the students because they go back
We
early?
have to close rides.
You close rides?
Well, like as an example, I am on a lifeguard stand in this last several years, in the last 2 weeks in August straight. So we support the student athletes. We understand that student athletes start, and the reason we support student athletes is because that's where they learn things like accountability, responsibility, work ethic. They learn in those team sports the things that we value as an employer, so we do everything that we can, bend over backwards, and in fact, I would happily close a ride to send a student to a practice. But if we've got an option, we would much rather not have to do it. August, it's just an awful time. When you're 2,000 people in the park and you close a ride, that's tough.
So I'm just confused. So you've got two issues here. Are you saying that sports is fine because you can send them out of the park early to be able to get to sports? That's not the issue. You're just saying the school
Right.
day you lose all these workers because they're in
The
school.
school day, you lose all of them, right?
Okay.
We have the student athletes, and they usually leave 2, 3, 4 o'clock. It's staggered based on their sport. And at 4 o'clock, you're getting towards the end of the day anyway, right? So then if we have to take all of our management staff, ownership group, and put them on a stand for 2 hours, that's one thing. But when the business end of our operation comes to a halt for 2 straight weeks because you start at 10 and end at 6 on a lifeguard chair, that's tough, and it's still not enough sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
Let me ask you, Mark, about the relationship between the way the high school sets the calendar and the elementary schools, because that can have an effect on families
Right.
if kids are going back at different times.
Yeah, most elementary schools will generally do what the high school does for family reasons. Waterville Valley had a history of going after Labor Day for very similar reasons. And because Massachusetts, a lot of the kids in the valley in the summertime are from Massachusetts, and their park and rec program needed to stay open because historically the Massachusetts kids went back after Labor Day. So that was, lately, in the last couple of years, they've been going back with everybody else. But that, again, that was a local decision in the valley. I mean, if I may, Madam Chair, I mean, we're being televised, so it gives you an opportunity to, you don't have to do this tonight. If you want input from the public, you certainly can get it. We probably just as easy have it passed next month. The elementaries can do this in February or March. So if it is a major issue, it absolutely is a major issue. So if you're comfortable getting more input, and it allows people on both sides of this issue to contact board members or contact our office and let us know how you feel. And then you can come to some sort of decision.
What is the, Bernie?
What percentage of our student population is guesstimate, I mean, I'm not getting into it, but is involved in the tourist industry as summer employees?
I bet most of the kids that have summer jobs somehow touch the tourist industry in some way. Yeah, they're seasonal workers, so that would be my guess. Matt, you may know that better than
I don't
me.
have a firm number, but, I mean, we employ 200 kids in total between our two businesses, and that's a lot. And the majority of the people that we hire are from Plymouth. This is it's a great place to hire from. We truly enjoy the kids in the school.
How would the committee like to proceed from here? Anybody have thoughts about that? Do we want to hold off till the next meeting, or is there discussion to have on this? How do we think it should go?
I don't think it would hurt to wait another month if this is being televised. Give people a chance to respond or give input,
Okay.
and we can think about it and look at it some more, and then vote.
At the next committee meeting, we can talk about it again. Any other
That would be
comments
like
tonight?
January 15th.
Yes.
I have a question, Marie.
Yeah.
Mark, would sports practices change if we went after Labor Day?
No, because you're dictated by the first day. It's dictated by NHIAA.
Okay.
The schedules are set. So no, I don't think that they would change at all. I think they would begin the day they're
Which is the middle of the month.
yeah, for the most part. Football begins probably a few days earlier than the other sports, and then they all start up. But I don't think it would change at all. The coaches have the flex to practice anytime they want. So it just depends on what time of day they want to have their practices. And we don't dictate that. The coaches make those decisions. Some come very early in the morning. I know cross country comes very early in the morning before it gets hot. And I know football is late in the afternoon into the evening to allow kids, quite frankly, to work. So, and there's a little bit of everything. But I think most coaches at that time of year try to avoid the midday heat. So.
None of the athletes, they, I believe, at 2, 3, 4 o'clock. That's
Yeah.
2 is the earliest. So.
Any other comments? Okay. Do we need to move it to?
No, you just defer it for next month's
All
calendar.
right, so that's what we'll defer unless I hear any.
January
objections.
15th.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, thanks, Matt. All right, so we'll put it on next month's calendar, agenda. Moving on to the Youth Risk Behavior Survey.
Yes. As you remember, we used to do the TAP survey, and then it became expensive. But one of the reasons that we didn't do the statewide survey is we couldn't get our own data. That the TAP survey afforded us an opportunity to get data that reflected the behaviors of our students versus the statewide pool that who knows whose kids were up to what. And many schools sort of followed our lead. Now the state has the ability to isolate those stats. So we did, as you know, we did the state survey last year, and we got those stats. And Jonathan Stewart will have a presentation for you in the coming weeks. We have those stats. The state is asking us if we would like to join in this round of the survey. And both Bruce and I would very much like to participate in the state survey.
Similar questions in design to the TAP survey?
Similar, a little bit more broad in terms of you know, are you safe in school and things like that. We don't. It's not as specific as we used to be able to write them, but we get similar data.
Would we continue with the TAP?
No,
Just do the
no,
state
that's
instead?
getting fairly expensive. Yeah. we were basically doing our own surveying, and so there's no more subsidy for that anymore.
Any questions from Mark? Yeah.
I think it's a good tool. You know, I've worked in schools, we get the data. It's really helpful for informing sort of what your kids need. So I just think it's good data, so I'm totally in favor of it.
Yeah, I am too. Any other concerns about it, questions? No? Do you want us to vote on it?
Yes, recommend to the full board that we participate in the statewide survey.
Okay, and do I have a motion to move it onto the full board? Okay, Phil, second by Barbara, thank you. All right. Other business,
I don't have any, Madam Chair.
okay, and now we're on to non-public. Do you have non-public?
No, not at this time.
Wow. Okay, so future meetings, we're meeting on the 15th?
Yes.
We're not meeting on the 3rd, we're meeting on the 15th.
15?
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't meet that 3rd. That's
Okay,
only for,
that's just
that's
for budget.
the full board, and then your budget hearing.
All right, great. So, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Confusion on that.
Maureen and, okay, thank you, Phil. Thanks.
Call to order the Policy and Budget Committee. The agenda review or disposition.
All set, Mr. Chairman.
Approval of minutes of December 4th. Unless there are corrections, observation, we accept them as printed. Will be approved. Audit review.
Yes, I believe in your packet, you have the cover letter from the auditors, and I have plenty more here if you'd like a copy of it. I also have a copy of the audit itself. As you can see, under opinions, they believe it's fairly stated and that we had no misstatements or inaccuracies, so we came through in very, very good shape, and tip of the hat to Jen Sanborn and to our business office. It was $15 million rolling through, and they did a really good job. So I have for the chair afterwards a document that says we've turned in all the information that we know of, and she needs just to sign off on that. But other than that, it's nice and clean. Electronically, I'll send any member of the board or any member of the public a copy of the audit. Happy to do it. It's fairly thick, so if your printer can.
Any questions, observations of the audit? Now we'll move on to the security grant scope update.
Yes, we had talked about the security grant, and there was money for renovations of the front. Also, we put in money for a phone system and also a camera system. When we got done checking on everything, it was pretty clear that we could not do everything that we wanted to do. And so we would be looking at asking for $35,000 from the voters, of which 28 would be reimbursed to comply with the wishes of the Homeland Security and the police chief and fire chief for the front of the building. John is still sort of looking into what he can do with the cameras, but at this moment in time, he was feeling like this is the best we can do at the moment. Now, whether that changes between now and your budget hearing, I don't know, but that's where we are at the moment.
Yes, Sam.
So we could approve that project tonight and still leave the time frame open to, because the issue I brought up, I think others expressed too, is if we can get up to $100,000 from the state,
Right.
we're leaving money on the table. You don't often get an opportunity to get money from the state, so if we
Yeah.
can do something to get more money,
Yeah. We would try.
But,
yeah.
but this, proving it today would have foreclosed.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. All you would be doing tonight is to say, go ahead forward with that piece of the warrant article and get it ready for our budget hearing.
Anyone else? Mark, are we doing anything in regard to the other doors in the building? And have better control of those if we're gonna put some money into making sure the front door is, we can't do it if they're leaving the back door open, is my point.
No, they're all, I think, most of them are either locked or they have a fob for folks to get in. But they are what they are. The one thing we have done, Ross, is change in the north wing. All of those used to be slider doors, as you remember. Those are all now just windows.
Remember that.
So we have tried to secure and limit the number of doors in the back and sides of the building and just meet the fire codes for folks exiting the building.
Is any instruction given at the beginning of the year not to open those doors for somebody that's wandering around and raps on the door?
Yes,
The
yeah.
student shouldn't be just,
Yeah, and in some areas there are signs saying, you know, no normal exit. And
any
don't go
other
out.
input on the security grant? So you want to vote from us to,
Just to move, from the committee to the board saying, move forward with the warrant article.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Dual and concurrent enrollment contract.
Absolutely. Yes, as you remember, Bob Price came to you with a contract from the state. The board wanted Mr. Price to take a look at our current acceleration policy and make sure it was coordinated. And so Bob has prepared a document, I think that is with your packet.
Yep.
And I'll let Bob talk to it.
Yeah, the request at the last board meeting was to identify the areas where this coursework advanced placement policy would interact with our own policies and for us to make notation of that. So that was what was added in, where it also points people to our own policies, both the course load policy, the extended learning opportunity policy, the acceleration policy, and students taking courses at Plymouth State University, and how all of those are in conjunction and where they are, without recreating our own policies. And the first part is the contract, if you all agree, that the school district would enter in with the community college system, allowing our students to take concurrent and dual enrollment courses and be reimbursed from the state for that. And if that were to be approved, there is a place in the original contract, I don't see it in this one, for the school board chair to sign. So it looks like there's a...
I have a copy.
You have a copy?
Yeah.
Any questions? Does this allay our fears and concerns? If it does, we have a motion to enter into this contract, Mike?
Moving on to the board to enter into the contract with the state.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Which brings us to coursework. No, we got that. Why is there a 5-1 and a 5-2?
Mr. Deachman, the 5-1 is the enrollment agreement, and the 5-2 is the policy. So those are the two, there were two different documents under there. The first one was the agreement to be
Is it the
signed with...
consensus of the committee that we approve both?
It is, yes.
So we're all set with that? Okay. And finally, meetings. I guess we do have a meeting on the,
We're gonna,
Budget update.
Budget?
Ross.
huh?
we're gonna do the budget?
Update. And know what time
Number 6.
5-2. Missing a page.
Oh, the most important piece.
The most important page
All right.
is missing.
So number 6, FY20 budget update.
Okay? July 20 budget update.
All right, here we go. The first handout is a summary of big picture, where we are now after the cuts you approved at the last meeting. Just so that we all have the same base. So for the sake of the folks watching on TV, if I may, Mr. Chairman, appropriations at the moment are up 7.6%, $1.114 million. The assessment is up 13.9%, which is $1.468 million. The major drivers of that, as you can see listed, we have revenue decreases of $222,000, that's 15.1%. That's a combination of cutbacks in state equity aid, that's 4% a year for 25 years, and unreserved fund balance. We have new debt service, and that is the first payment on the bond and interest, totaling $364,930. We have health insurance costs that went up 14.2%, guaranteed maximum, and that by collective bargaining, we have to put those increases in the budget. And then we have increased special education costs. Now, some communities will see this as a victory. Some major programs are now coming to the high school, and there will be reductions at the elementary schools. So those costs at Pemmy Baker are up by $259,542. So when you look at those 4 major drivers, that's the majority of the increase on the assessment. And that is about $1.1 million. All right? And that's where we left it. Now, I went back and with Bruce, and we have another sheet for you. You're welcome. At your last meeting, the committee was pretty satisfied with the programs that are being run at the high school, and we all felt class sizes were appropriate and the programs were okay. For lack of a better term, an overused cliche, it was sort of a perfect storm of healthcare, bond payment, and special ed, all coming together. What we did is we looked at, as you know, sometimes we will carry an encumbrance from a previous fiscal year into a new year, and then we have a new year's worth of special education money. If you allow us to look at those 3 years, and the auditors have said you can do that as long as you contract the money by certain periods of time, I think we can reduce line 171 by $100,000. It's the second time we've reduced that from the original request of 1.2 million. This would bring it down. 1.1 million. This would bring it down to about $900,000. So I'm comfortable with it, with the auditors signing off that they're all right. And then what Bruce and I did is we wandered through the nickels and the dimes. And we matched up requests with actual spending histories. So, oftentimes we're given money, it's an authority, but that doesn't mean that people are going to spend it. It has to pass muster with the principal, then it comes to our office, and then some value decisions are made. So we've looked at past requests for money, history of spending, and also looked at those departments. So if you were to say to me, well, what's being cut? My answer is, I don't know what's being cut. But when you're down into $250 and $500, those sorts of things, those are the kinds of things that the principal and the teachers can work out, whether we get 7 of something or 5 of something. No department was targeted, no program was targeted. We just looked at spending histories in line items.
Mark, you satisfied the enrollment numbers are going to be what you've projected?
Yeah.
So we won't be looking to hire new teachers?
Well,
I mean, we don't anticipate.
no, I think we should be stable. I think in some departments, we're still run high. Phys ed, we run very high in. So we're balancing. You know, we got a little bit trapped last year trying to finagle a social studies position. And we thought, well, if the kids go this way, they go that way. And we end up really needing the position. So I don't want to, two things. I don't want to do that to a person, to have their lives out on limbo. And second of all, I just think we're running close enough to the numbers that I just, if we were going to go with personnel, Ross, I think we would be looking at a program, just a flat-out program, and just say, we're not doing this anymore, rather than tweaking class sizes.
I have one other question about special ed. Just, you looked at actuals, you looked at history, and you feel you have enough in the budget for special ed. I'm just,
We have a authority to borrow. One of the
Okay.
warrant articles, Maureen, it's a
Okay.
great question. One of the warrant articles allows us to borrow if we get into a mess.
okay.
But thank you for that question, because
Okay.
Limit on how much you can borrow?
no. We put a limit on ourselves at 100,000, but oftentimes, that will do it when you start looking at what we need to do in a short period of time. But we were very careful to be on the high side of some programs transitioning. Historically, we got cocky at times and thought, well, this kid is in this program with a little bit of help and finagling, we can get him in, they'll be a part of our normal day. And sometimes we won and sometimes we lost. So we went to the more conservative side doing this budget.
Any comments on Mark's? Yes.
Yeah, just a question. There were a couple things you had discussed, I thought, last time. One was the replacement of equipment in ground services. Was that?
We cut that truck.
You already cut it?
That's
Okay.
already cut. That was in
Okay.
that first handout when we started the day. That reflected those cuts.
That was already cut,
Yep.
okay. And the other question was about the school resource officers.
That'll be a warrant article that the board said, put it on there, and if Plymouth does it and high school wants to do it, we'll do it.
That's already out.
Yes, that's out.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Mark, the long-term consequences of these changes and what they foretell for future years. The debt service, obviously we own that for a number of years now. We, to some extent, don't control the revenue decreases. But once we've absorbed them the first time, unless there's additional revenue decreases, we don't have to absorb them again next year, is that right?
Unreserved fund balance, but you're going to absorb if the state legislature doesn't freeze the 4% cut. And there will be legislation, in fact, newly elected Representative Fellows is going to introduce a bill to stop that. It got some traction this year. It's hurt enough in some places. So if that can be frozen, that's a help. But our unreserved fund balance was a touch high because of excess special ed money that went back. And unreserved fund balance is a real gift in October and a nightmare in January. So, because it's a false read on your long-term needs.
The health premiums are the health premiums. I mean,
Yeah, when
we
you
don't
look,
control that
Yeah.
unless we can make some changes in the health insurance itself to reduce the premium dollars.
yeah, we've had a nice run. You're on good plans. It's just that the pool itself, those of you that were at the SAU meeting saw those stats. The pool itself, the increase was 8%, which means that lots of people were way below that, and lots of people were way higher than that. But, and we were higher than that based on our group use. But I think you're on solid plans here at the high school to minimize that.
Ross, I had a, Ross?
Yeah.
I had a question, just to follow up on the healthcare. If you remember, we did, for any new future hires, cut the number of plans that were available. So theoretically, as people retire and we hire new people, they'll be on different plans than are currently available.
I guess what I'm trying to do is hold out some hope to the district taxpayers, voters, that there's an end in sight to this $200,000 here, $300,000 there. And I know that we cannot make any promises in that regard, but as long as we are making efforts in each of them to try and control this a little better. Otherwise, we're going to end up cutting into our programs, and that's not what any of us want. That's not why we're here working as hard as we work, and the administration works to try and maintain this fantastic facility and program. But these are pretty heady numbers.
There is an upside, and that is the condition of the facility. I think the facility is in good shape.
But will we see any real decrease in numbers on maintenance because of what we've done? That's the only way it makes, I mean, it makes sense because it makes sense to have
I think
fixed, but...
Yeah, I think you're seeing it now, quite frankly, in reductions in heating costs and electricity. The first year in electricity alone was a savings of $40,000. I think that goes off into eternity.
But once you make it, now it's built into the budget, and you don't get it next year.
Oh, that's true. All you can do is just have that graph that says if you didn't do anything, this is what your number would be.
I understand. All right, any other observations on the budget? Are we ready to recommend it to the budget hearing, not as our budget for next year, but as the numbers that we're going to present to the public on January
3rd, Thursday
January
night?
3rd, after which we have another meeting to reaffirm the budget and/or decrease it and/or whatever else that we can do based upon what transpires.
Do we recommend it to the board to pass tonight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to move it to a hearing.
For the board, move it to the hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Bill, second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we recommend this latest, is this draft 3, Mark?
This would be draft 3. No, this would be draft 4.
Draft 4. We recommend draft 4 be presented to the voters at the hearing on January 3rd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That concludes my work then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me hand out the warrant articles that sort of go along with this, and then we'll make sure the numbers are right.
Okay, so we're going to meet again on the 3rd as a committee?
Yes. Well, the full board. You'll meet as a full board, but the committee will be sort of running the show, because the only thing on the agenda will be, if you want, you can have a report from the principal and the students. But basically, and then at 6:30 that night, we'll be down here with a budget hearing.
So just the budget committee's meeting at 5 o'clock?
No, full board will.
I mean, full board.
Yeah.
Full board, and then we have a hearing at 6:30.
Can we make it closer to the 6:30 thing, or does that mess things up? So we're not waiting, like that whole time? in between?
You can meet anytime you want. The budget hearing is set for 6:30, that's that. That's been posted. You guys can meet at 6, you can meet at 5:45, 5:30, whatever you're comfortable doing.
I just know in the past, we've met at 5 and then we've had an hour
Yeah.
to wait for the meeting, so I don't know if people feel comfortable with changing that or not. Ross, were you going to say something?
Not a different matter.
Yeah, even 5:30.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it, the later the better for me.
Okay.
5:30?
5:30's
That's
Sounds
fine.
good to me.
It's absolutely
We can
fine.
bang it out.
Yeah.
That's the night you are, okay.
Do you want me to go over the warrant articles?
I gotta see what time
Or are you going to have some...
Just, it's all yours, Mr. Chairman.
The warrant is pretty traditional. The first article authorizes us to negotiate and execute, when they say us, they mean the superintendent school, to negotiate and execute tuition contracts as we've done with Warren, Ellsworth, Waterville Valley,
Warren, Ellsworth.
Maybe,
Those are 3, yeah. Yeah.
We've always supported that, and the voters have always supported us, so I assume we want to continue that.
Does that go on the warrant every year?
Yeah.
then? Oh, okay.
The special education borrowing is what Mark just referred to. We have $100,000 authorization, actually 104 with the interest. This enables us to take in a student or more and pay for it, and then bill the state of New Hampshire as we have to get the money the following year, so, which again screws up our revenue. But anyway, nothing we can do about it. Now, you'll notice that there's no corresponding payback of last year's because we don't anticipate having one. Therefore, that had to come out of the budget according to the auditors, but it would pick it up the following year. If there's any questions, just speak up. Contingency fund, $1,000 for flowers or some other kind of thing that we might have. We sometimes use it for more substantial matters than that, if they come up and they were just not foreseen. But this is just to give the board some authority to make expenditures like flowers without having to raise it out of our own pockets. The school resource officer, we've discussed. This is going to be in conjunction with Plymouth. This is our share. What did you say, 62%, Mark?
65.
65% of the cost for the 185, 190 days that he or she will be available to the high school and the elementary school. That was, I think, unanimous on our part to put it on the warrant. The security upgrades we've discussed tonight, at the moment they stand at $35,000 through the front entrance. We would pay $7,000 and the state of New Hampshire would pay $28,000. We're still continuing to look at other items, which if we raise them if we raise the issue at the public hearing, we can then include it in the final warrant, Mark?
No, I'd have to have it that night, so that we would be dealing with, I'd bring 2 sets of papers to you at your board meeting and say, do you want to go with 35 or do you want to go with 82, depending on what
Okay.
John works out.
So that's the school upgrades. Then the money article is targeted at $15,775,666. Here, is that the final number, Mark?
No, that's why the question mark is there. It'll be a
Okay.
new number.
And then there may be a corresponding different number for, no, you think the default budget will remain there at 15,502?
You know, it'll probably flex a little bit because I may have taken out some of the stuff that qualified or didn't qualify.
Gotcha. So, and that's it, those 6 articles, Matt?
Yep.
Okay. Anything anyone else wants to talk about in regard to the warrant? Okay, be ready for our signatures when, Matt?
Once
That
you,
night?
no, be afterwards, because you may want to take some time to think about the budget, you may have another meeting. So we wouldn't have it ready till you authorize us.
Okay.
This is what we're going to do.
That budget hearing, those of you who are listening on TV, we have not been getting a good turnout for those hearings, and we appreciate the voters coming out and participating in the discussions, and help us with all of these issues if they have some ideas. So, we'll see you on the 3rd.
Rather have you do it than not do it, honestly. That way then,
I make the motion.
Motion is to move these to the full board tomorrow night.
Tonight.
Tonight, I'm sorry. Tonight to vote on and posting them for the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. You're just listening and learning, good.
Started.
Open the full board meeting, agenda review and disposition,
I'm all set, Madam Chair.
the minutes for the December 4th budget will stand approved as written unless there are any amendments or corrections. So they stand approved. And I would like to, was Ainsley here last time?
No, it's Jasmine.
Okay. So I would like to introduce Ainsley, who is sharing the student role with Jasmine.
Hi, I'm Ainsley Towers. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a junior and I'm the school board representative with Jasmine Sanders, who was here last meeting. So reporting on like winter sports, most of them, the outdoor ones, have moved from dryland training to actually like practicing their sports. Nordic started on using our trails yesterday, and they intend to do that as long as we have snow. The jumping hopes to use the jump soon, so that kind of depends on snow. In Student Senate, we still have all 4 committees working on gender-neutral bathrooms, cell phone policies, dress code, and graduation robes. And we won't have anything to present to the school board until after winter break.
Any questions for Ainsley? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You're all set.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, usually it doesn't go like this, a lot quicker.
Mr. Howard?
Yes. I just want to report that at the SAU meeting Thursday night, the SAU board approved my nomination of Pam Martin as the new assistant superintendent for SAU 48. Many of you met Pam through the process, but we're really excited about having her join us. She's currently the deputy principal at Spalding High School in Rochester, and she's been a CTE director in Somersworth, and she has a broad educational background. She also has 10 years in the private sector, working with Cabletron, and started out in marketing. So really excited to have a person with that kind of background. So she will be up during the course of the spring, meeting folks, and is currently looking at real estate in the Peggy Baker area. So we're excited about having Pam joining us. I think those of you who met her, people have really said she's a nice fit, really nice fit, personality-wise, and skill set is excellent. So, we're just slogging through the last week before Christmas vacation. I do want to thank the community. The generosity of the community has been outstanding for those of our students that don't have some of the opportunities that others do. The community has really stepped up with donations and all kinds of gifts that are available, and so thank you to the greater Pemmy Baker community and folks who privately donate. It really, we all know it's a pretty special place to live and to work, but at this time of year brings out the best in everybody. So That's my report,
All
Madam
right,
Chair.
thank you. The committees all met right before the board meeting.
Oh, we have principal's report? Good.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you
I know
were
I'm not the principal. Stepping in
acting
his
on
stead.
behalf of Mr. Parsons. Mr. Price, would you like to?
The only thing I have to report is last Tuesday, we had a full-day teacher in service, and we spent the day working with the teachers in preparation to draft the growth plan, which is part of the NEASC process that we needed to do. We took the faculty through 4 different things. The first thing we did is we showed them an educational documentary called Most Likely to Succeed. Had discussion items around that and some brainstorming ideas, and then took them through a module on growth mindset, which is the work from Carol Dweck, a psychologist from Stanford. And then we spent the afternoon working on PLCs, which are wow, brain cramp. Professional learning communities. Sorry about that. Working with professional learning communities, the structures, protocols to do that. And then we used the work from that to go through our faculty with a data review where we looked at the data from last year's SATs in both evidence-based reading and writing, math, the SAS science data, which was the new form of the science assessment. This last year was the first time it was on a computer-based exam assessment that was given, so we went through that data. And we also went through on the state website, there's a new called iExplore data where it takes every single high school or elementary school in the state, and it gives you the percentages of economically students that are on free and reduced. It gives you percentages of all of the schools where they fall for special education, as well as their SAT scores. And so we took them through a data sheet of that as well. That is it. That's my report,
All
ma'am.
right, thank you very much. And do you want to give a brief rundown, because I don't think the TV was here for facilities.
Okay, so we had a discussion about the CTE.
Another year left.
Is there a
We'll
problem?
talk about it now.
Okay, go ahead.
A brief discussion about the CTE. We should be up and running, returning from Christmas break. And I guess that was it. Yeah, that was it.
All right, thank you. Program and staffing.
Yes, we met also, approved the minutes. We discussed the fiscal year 20, the 1920 school year calendar, and discussed whether to begin before or after Labor Day a little bit, and decided we will defer this vote and future conversation to the next board meeting in case anybody wants to give us their input as to what they would like to see us do. We discussed the youth risk behavior survey. Mr. Halloran asked if we could bring this into the school this year to survey the students for risky behaviors and what that looks in our community. Are we voting for that now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so do I hear a motion for?
So it's actually coming from committee,
So
so
it's-
the
Okay.
board, all those in favor of voting
Okay.
for doing the youth risk behavior survey this year at the high school.
Okay.
And it looks like it's unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you.
There was no other business, no non-public, and our next meeting will be on the 15th of January.
Thank you. Policy and budget.
Yes, we met tonight. We approved our minutes. We had a review of the audit, and the audit is outstanding, no issues. So that was recommended to the full board to accept it, or just?
No, if you would, please accept it. Just accept the audit report.
Motion to accept the audit report.
So all those in favor of accepting the audit report?
Aye.
That's another unanimous.
The next item was the security grant, which we talked about at the last meeting. Mark did a follow-up with John Francis, and they agreed somewhat reluctantly that the only item that we could really realistically do this year would be the changes to the front entrance, to tighten those up. And the cost of that would be $35,000, 7 of which would come from the voters, and $28,000 from the state of New Hampshire, and the committee recommends it to the full board.
So that is, are we voting on a warrant article for that?
You're voting
or-
to approve the concept of the warrant article, and the renovations of the front would be definitely in it. And then if John can get a piece of the cameras or the piece of the phone to fit under the requirements of the state, because the cap is at $100,000 of state money, then we would bring that to you at your meeting prior to the budget hearing for your approval, either yes or no. And then we would go to the budget hearing either with just the front or the front and whatever piece
Okay.
John
Great.
can
Thank
figure
you.
out to get into that warrant article.
So all those in favor of approving that warrant article? Thank you.
Next, we took up dual and concurrent enrollment contracts. Mr. Price presented with the updated information, blending in our requirements under our, what do we call it?
We have our own
Acceleration.
policies.
Our acceleration policy, thank you, Mike. We reviewed it, and we're happy to see that our policies have been made a part of that policy and that contract, and we voted that both of them be brought to the full board for approval.
So approving the policy and the contract with the state. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The final item on our agenda was the budget. Mark reviewed the changes that have gone through since draft one. He was able, he was, administration were able to recommend another roughly $120,000 in cuts in appropriation. The bulk of it this round came from reducing special ed. Mark assures us that they have gone through it as much as they can do at this time of year for something that's not going to happen until September. They're comfortable with the now $900,000 that is set aside for that purpose. Keeping in mind that on the warrant is also an article authorizing us to spend up to $100,000 additionally. So that's gave us a budget of
We can just call it draft 4.
of draft 4. Which, just for everyone's, yeah, thank you. Is now going to be $15,775,666. And that's what we're going to recommend to the full board tonight, that they would bring to the committee hearing, the hearing.
The budget
scheduled for-
hearing.
Budget hearing scheduled for the 3rd.
Okay, so all those are presenting that draft budget at the budget hearing, January 3rd. In favor, looks like unanimous.
That's it for our committee. Or is that real recommend?
Do we have to approve all the warrant articles? You know, no, I was a stickler for that.
We're all done.
What's that?
We're all done.
Okay.
And no non-public?
We do have non-public for one issue from, recommendation from the SCC for an appointment.
Huh, all right. So all those, or do I hear a motion to go into non-public? Maureen, seconded by Ross. Yes, yes, yes.